Hello, I'm Trevor Herman. I'm a counselor in Asheville, North Carolina. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I make these videos primarily for current and prospective clients to learn new skills, to practice skills we've tried in therapy, or to gain new information or refresh information about mental health and wellness and resilience. If you're not a client, not interested in being a client, please enjoy the videos as well. They can be helpful for just about anyone. If you are in a mental health emergency, please stop watching the video and call 911. Please don't try to contact me in the event of an emergency. I hope that you enjoy the videos, get something out of them, and if you want to subscribe to my channel, that's great. If you enjoy the video, please hit like, that's helpful to me, and enjoy. Welcome back. Today we're going to be practicing a new skill to use when experiencing mild to moderate anxiety. This is a relatively quiet skill, but still more active than, say, mindful breathing. So just remember that if we're going to be successful in using skills to treat anxiety on our own, the more anxious and physical our anxiety response is, the more physical and active our intervention needs to be. So again, this is for a mild to moderate anxiety response. You may be feeling a little clammy. You may notice that your breath is rapid and shallow to some extent, but not hyperventilating. Your heart rate may be a little elevated, but not pounding through your chest. You may feel slightly claustrophobic, but not to the point of needing to leave a room or a space or a grocery store or something like that. So again, mild to moderate anxiety. And it's really important to remember that if you're going to be successful in using skills to treat anxiety rather than medications or things like alcohol or marijuana or whatever it is, we need to apply the right skill at the right time and practice the skills when we're actually feeling okay. So this skill involves taking the mind and therefore the whole body back to an experience that was actually quite soothing. And by doing so, helping the nervous system calm down now. And for those of you that are skeptical that just simply indulging in a past pleasant memory could be helpful, I think we all have the experience of going down the rabbit hole of a past negative or stressful memory and noticing anxiety rising now. For example, if I go back to a time where I procrastinated on a major paper in grad school and put it off really to the last minute and really didn't do my research and really turned in something that was of poor quality for me, I can start feeling the anxiety rising just thinking about that again. So luckily, the flip side of that is that I can go back to a supportive memory, a memory that involved all of my five senses, and me being very present at the time. And I can go back to that memory and I can savor it again. And by doing so, I can get some relief from my anxiety. So the best or easiest to use memories for this really are the ones where we showed up fully, where our five senses were totally engaged, where our attention was undivided. It's not a time where we had our phone out. It's not a time where we were driving. It's a time where we were really there. A lot of people, when they think of events like this, tend to think of times that involved vacation and water. So I talk to a lot of people that have moments at the beach or at a waterfall or a river, some body of water, because when you think about it, water is one of the fastest ways to engage all of the five senses. It's a literal immersion of the senses. So think about that. For myself, I go back to a time where my younger son was very young, between 6 months and 18 months. And every morning he was awake, by 5:30. And so we had a lot of time to work with together. And part of our time together was I'd put him in the sling carrier, which I liked a lot because it didn't involve a lot of straps. It was just like plunk the baby in and he turned into a little peanut and cuddled in. And I'd get the dogs and we would go for a walk, even if it was 35 degrees out and pitch black. And we would get to a stretch of the walk where we were going up a hill, and it was just so quiet. We were going up a straight hill, so I didn't have to spend a huge amount of attention on my feet, and I could just really be present with my son. So I'd put my arms around him, or one arm around him, while I managed the dogs with the other arm, and I listened with my ears, and I experienced through my skin. And my eyes, which are usually a pretty dominant sense for me, didn't have a lot to work with. It was dark out. But I could see things. I could see the stars, oftentimes, or the moon, maybe the lines on the road. I was drinking coffee usually, so I could taste the coffee. I could smell the coffee. I could usually smell my son. You know, babies have a scent to them. Sometimes pleasant, sometimes not. So that formed a really strong memory. Over and over again, I was on that walk in similar circumstances, holding my son with the dogs, with my coffee, hearing the morning sounds, or even too early to hear the morning sounds of birds, but I could hear my footsteps. I could hear my own breathing. I could hear my son snoring or shifting around in the sling. And so it became a very rich memory for me. And so if I'm practicing this skill, that's oftentimes the memory I pull up. And so we're going to practice this together. This will feel kind of awkward for me because I'm on a screen and I'm going to close my eyes in front of a screen and practice this skill and demonstrate how I choose to do it. So I think this skill is more fun and maybe even more effective if we add in a physical component. So my favorite way to do that is called butterfly tapping. So I hold my hands up like this with my thumbs out, I cross at the wrist, I hook my thumbs, and then I lay my hands on my chest, imagining that it's just a butterfly landing gently on a flower, as they do. And when a butterfly lands gently on a flower, you notice that they flap their wings just slowly, sometimes alternately, sometimes at the same time, but we're going to try alternately. Just slowly, in that hollow spot beneath my collarbone. So I get my butterfly tapping going nice and slow. Take a deep breath in through my nose and all the way out. Let my eyes close. And I take myself back to that memory. And I go through my senses. And what I could see the stars, moonlight, silhouettes of trees, silhouettes of my dogs in the dark. I could hear my footsteps and the dog's nails on the pavement. I could hear my son snoring. I could hear my own breathing. I was going uphill. Through my skin, I could experience the cold of the dark winter morning, contrasted with the warmth of my young son pressed against my chest, with his breath against my skin through my shirt. I could feel the tension of the dogs pulling at the leash. I could smell the grass around me, my coffee, my son's baby smell, and I could taste the coffee and its aftertaste. And so I just let myself be in that memory and savor it. Let my breath just come naturally, preferably through my nose, but if it's clogged, the mouth is fine. Just let the butterfly tapping be soft and slow. And when I start to notice that my heartbeat is slowing, that my breathing has settled in, and that I can breathe into my diaphragm or down into my belly, I might take one last breath and savor that memory for a last moment and come on back to wherever I happen to be. And it's helpful at this point to really orient myself to my current location, to look up and around if I'm outside, looking up to places I don't normally look. If I'm inside, take in every corner of the room and really just remind myself of where I am now, to orient myself to the situation and my own safety. So this is a skill to practice with mild to moderate anxiety. Truly, it's a skill to practice when not feeling much anxiety at all, so that you cement the memory that you're going back to so that it can provide the most benefit. So one way to practice this is while feeling okay, while feeling stable and in a safe, quiet place, to bring up a stressful memory. For me, like that late paper that I did a terrible job on, I could go back to that and I could notice my body respond with my breathing and my heart rate and my skin. And then I could deliberately shift to the supportive memory and do the tapping and the breathing and go back and savor the supportive memory and bring my body back to a place of stable breathing, cool, dry skin, steady heart rate. And notice the amount of ability that I have to manage my own symptoms. So that's my hopeful way to practice this so that when I really need it, I have access to it. Because remember, professional athletes don't just play big games. They have countless hours of practice before the big game. And high anxiety is like the big game. If I get there without having practiced, I'm probably not going to manage it very well. So this is yet another tool to add to your toolbox of ways to manage anxiety and bring yourself back to a place of feeling stable and safe. Thank you.